Hi everyone, it's Kim from Fleece and Harmony and welcome to episode 113 of my knitting and crochet podcast. If you're viewing this on the day that it's published, it's January 20th, 2023. As always, we'll be doing the regular segments, and first of all we start with a farm update. This podcast is being recorded in our wool shop, which is located in our woolen mill, which is located on our sheep farm in Belfast, Prince Edward Island. So we always do a farm update. I have some finished objects to show to you today, and we are also going to do the final segment in the vignettes that the Campaign for Wool had produced, talking about wool in Canada. We also will have an update on the Scandiworks knit along that is going on with Fleece and Harmony right now, a shop update, and we have some works in progress and potential rips that we'll talk about in the segment with Betsy. And finally, we will finish with a nice snowy day on the Harmony part. So we will start with the farm update, and the theme of the farm update today is rain, rain, go away. So it has been raining for weeks, literally, and we had a little bit of snow in between, which is when we were able to film the Harmony part, and then it rained again. And it looks like it's going to rain all week until Sunday. It is, I'm not usually affected by seasonal, I forget what it's called, seasonal something disorder, but I can tell you that the sun would be a welcome visitor at this point. The ground is completely saturated, and we don't have flooding per se, but it's just constant rain for days on end. It's unbelievable. The only bright spot that I can find in the whole situation, and I was talking to Ken this morning, was that imagine if it had been snow, it would have been just like 2015 when we literally had 25-foot drifts up against some of our buildings. But it is just relentless. In spite of that, everybody on the farm is good. The sheep are all well. The horses actually got new blankets this year, so I don't always blanket the horses in the winter, but when it's just hovering around freezing and not freezing and they get wet and then the wind comes up, it is not really pleasant for them outside. So I actually invested in brand new blankets for both of the horses this winter. And they are, every day I'm out there checking to make sure that they're nice and toasty, warm and dry underneath, because they definitely need to be waterproof in this kind of weather. And everything's good with them, but I'm so happy that I got them new blankets. Their old blankets had a few rips in them, and the waterproofing does wear off at some point on blankets. They're guaranteed waterproof usually for 3 years, but after they're 3 or 4 years old, it is true that the rain starts to seep through them and then they would just be damp. It does still seem to keep them warm, but you don't really want their skin or their fur to stay damp either. So they're all comfortable under their blankets, and like I said, I'm happy that that's the case. If we're looking for other positive things, we don't have to fill up we have a big stock waterer that in the winter we usually would have to haul water to fill up, but the rain is actually not quite keeping up to what they're drinking. We still have to fill it every couple days, but we do notice that it's not we're not hauling as much water as we usually do. So that's trying to find the positives in a bad situation or in bad weather. The province, Prince Edward Island, is hosting the Canada Games in February, so it's a winter games, and I'm not sure what they're going to do actually. So the weather can change quite a lot by the end of February, so maybe we'll have snow by then, but I really hope that there is some of the white stuff around, and because if it's like I said, it's just relentless. Anyway, we'll keep a smile on our faces and keep going. We'll just do a little update about it's been pretty busy in the house. So for those that maybe are just joining us and haven't seen previous episodes, we live in a farmhouse on the farm that was built around 1860, we think. So somewhere around that time. And it hasn't had a real major renovation since it was built. There's a lot of original things still in the house, but the plaster, we have horsehair plaster, for example, and everything. It's all really time for a redo. We were thinking of trying to restore it, but honestly the job is just really too big, and we're renovating, but we're trying to be sympathetic to the look of the house. But we had done a lot of demo. It's really tough here getting the trades in timely. Everybody is like in full demand for building and everything here, much like almost everywhere else that I know of. And on top of that, we had the Hurricane Fiona in September, obviously. So the trades were all diverted to doing emergency construction work for people that had damage to their homes or lost buildings, burns, and things like that. So it's really been tough getting the trades to come in. We have a really great project manager and general contractor. So we're not too worried, but it is going a little bit slower than what we had anticipated, even though we didn't want to go like super fast because we're still living in the house. So we have to maintain rooms that are livable. So it was going to be kind of a slow project anyway, but after the hurricane, it really slowed down. It's this week, it's really progressing fairly quickly. So gyprock has been put up last week, and they're starting to really prepare the gyprock. So I had talked about putting mud on the gyprock in a previous episode, and I just didn't really realize that using that kind of language is not everybody knew what I meant by putting mud on. So when we talk about mud, is that the gyprock obviously comes in, I think it's 8 by 4 feet or 8 by 6 feet panels. And that gets screwed onto your walls, and then they're butted together. But wherever they're butted together, there's a seam. And that seam needs to be finished, and it's kind of like a plaster that goes over it so that you have a smooth wall. It's not really plaster, but it's sort of like that. So when we say the walls need to be mudded, that's what we're talking about, is that they're doing this seam filling on the gyprock. So that started, and once that happens, it really starts to seem like there's real progress, because now you have solid walls. And then they just need to be primed and painted, and then you're kind of like off to the races. So we're just anxiously awaiting for that step, that mudding step or the seam filling to start, and I think it's going to start this weekend. We had people from the heating company in today. The plumbers have been in today. So things are starting to pick up a little bit as people have caught up with all of the things that they had to do for the construction that was needed after Fiona at the end of September. And that's about it. Other than that, things are going well in the mill. We're making lots of yarn because we're already starting to stock up for the Fiber Festival, which hopefully will happen in 2023. And we're going great guns in the mill. And we've had somebody new join our team. So you've all seen or met Betsy that sits with me in the segment that we do together. So Betsy works in the mill. You've seen pictures of Janet, who also works here. She helps me spin and prepares fiber as well. She also does all of the hand knitting that we have in the shop, like the socks and things like that. So that's Janet, and you've seen pictures of her. And Jennifer Hicks, of course, is the person that most often is dyeing the yarn, although Betsy and I have started to learn. Jennifer's teaching us how to dye, so we're starting to learn dyeing as well. And Jennifer is a really prolific knitter and often has donated her projects to me for the for the podcast, so that I have a finished object to show once in a while, because I'm a notoriously slow knitter, as all of my regular viewers know. So now we have added Simone Van Eiderstein to the team. So we're really excited about that. Simone has her own knitting design company called Sand and Sky Creations. I think is I just always call it Sand and Sky, but I'll put the proper name. So if you want to search for her work, you can see it. You can find it on Ravelry. And Simone has knit quite a few projects with our yarn before she joined the team, and actually had designed some patterns with our yarns as well. So we're really excited that she's come to work with us, and we will see how that goes. So she just started this week. So we have a full house in the back. Because of that, that has allowed Ken, who usually works in the mill with us every day, to actually go and help out in the house. So now Ken is going to be working in the house with the construction team a little bit, just to keep things moving and to give them some help here. And I'm fine here in the mill because we have that full team. So we're really excited about that. And speaking of Jennifer Hicks, she actually contributed the finished objects that I'm going to talk about right now for the podcast. So a while back, when I did the list of 5 of socks, I talked about the Hermione socks, and that was one of the most popular sock patterns. There was more projects with the Hermione socks, I think, than any other single pattern. And I was lamenting the fact that I couldn't find any projects that were knit with the point prim sock yarn, which is our sock yarn that we make here at the mill. So in case you don't know, the point prim sock yarn is a blend of sheep's wool from PEI. So the sheep's wool is always sourced from PEI, like all of the yarns that we make here. And we blend it with 20% mohair for strengthening, because we do not spin with any synthetic fiber. So we don't use any nylon in any of our yarns. And she has knit a pair of the Hermione socks in the point prim sock yarn in the color Cotton Candy. So I have them. They're beautiful. And this is such a cute pattern, because you have this little stitch design here that has like a little bit of a waffly look, and the feet are plain stockinette, so they're really nice and comfortable. If you're looking at the color, the Cotton Candy color, you will see, if you're not familiar with our woolen mill made yarns that we make here, all of the colors, even the solids, have a tonal quality to them, because we do dye all of the yarn in the hank. So we do not dye in the wool and then card and then create the yarn, which gives a very even solid color. We hand dye or kettle dye all of our sock yarns. So we spin everything in the natural color and dye the colors after, using greener shade dyes, which are meet the standards for organic fiber treatments. So we have those. So now we have our very own Harmony Meadow point prim sock yarn in Ravelry in a pair of Hermione socks. So thank you, Jennifer, for knitting them, and they're lovely. I also have a second project from Jennifer. She's knitting a pair of slippers out of the Nordic Knitting Primer book for her friend. And these slippers are meant to be knit a little bit bigger and then felted if you want. But Jennifer is not going to felt these slippers, because they're going to just fit her friend's feet the way that they are. These are done in Selkirk worsted yarn, and the colors, Jennifer chose a rather low contrast color for the slippers. So the soles have this grid work pattern. The colors are Take the Fairy and Natural White, and the cuff is Blueberry Preserve. So those are the colors in Selkirk worsted. And the name of the slippers is unpronounceable for me, so I'm not even going to try to say it, because there's just one too many consonants in the beginning of the name that I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it'll be down here in a title. And these slippers have not been washed and blocked yet. So we're actually going to talk a lot about blocking in the segment with Betsy. But we'll say for now that they haven't been washed and blocked yet. So the color work is still a little bit I mean, the color work is done beautifully and the floats are gorgeous inside, but as all hand knitting, when you do color work, it does have a little bit of well, the stitches are a little bit uneven until you wash and block it. So if you think that it looks uneven, I can tell you that the knitting is extremely consistent and beautiful, but they just haven't been washed and blocked yet. And these slippers are, Kristen Drysdale has a lot of slipper patterns in this shape, which is kind of cool because they have this, the construction of them is really cool, and they have this little picket fence reminiscent of mittens, the Selbu mittens or Norwegian mittens, but they're slippers. And there is also a little on the cuff, there is a Norwegian braid around there too. So those are the slippers that the name again is down below, and the pattern is found in the Norwegian knitting primer, or Nordic knitting primer, sorry, and you can buy the pattern separately on Ravelry as well. So there, I think, maybe not separately, but anyway, there's the slippers. They're lovely. And that's the knitted finished objects that Jennifer allowed me to show for her that she knit. And in the shop update, I am going to show another finished object, because I'll talk about the yarn that was used in this finished project in the shop update. So I think next we'll go to the final installment of the segments that were made by the Campaign for Wool and for Canada. And this was a project that was done by the Campaign for Wool in conjunction with the Canadian Wool Council, which is another organization which I happen to sit on the board for as a volunteer. And these segments are talking about knitting or wool use in Canada, and it's been really kind of enlightening to see some of the different uses and different types of handcrafts that are being done with wool in Canada. So this time we're going to travel to, we've been in Newfoundland looking at the Newfoundland knitters. We have been in the Ontario region around Toronto, where there was a 100-mile jacket that was produced and sold in Holt Renfrew. That was the segment. And the last segment was on the Salish weavers. So Salish knitting is fairly iconic. Most people would recognize it if they saw it, but I wasn't actually even aware of the work that the weavers have done. So that was in the last episode of the podcast. So that would have been episode 112. Episode 111 is the 100-mile jacket, if you want to see that. And episode 110 was the Nonia segment, which features the Newfoundland knitters. And now we're going to go to the prairies. And the title of this episode is A Prairie Jubilee. So I hope you'll join me for a visit to the Canadian prairies. And we'll take a look at what the Campaign for Wool has to offer there.
The whole thing is wool. The eyes, the teeth, her pearls are wool, the hair is wool. It has a softness to it that speaks to who she is. And yet, when you felt wool, it becomes really strong. My name is Rosemary Pélaquin. I'm an artist and I live in a small town called Saint-Pierre-Joly. And I make sculptures out of wool and also do two-dimensional pieces. When I first started, I felt like I wanted to put some faces out there and show how lovely they are. And wool is so nice to show that. You can't be sad when you're surrounded by clouds of wool. It feels so good. What it's brought me to do is to meet all these great shepherds. They are amazing. Their knowledge of their sheep and their breeding. It's wonderful because I know that they love what they're doing. They care for the animals. The one shepherd that I go to in Carberry, Manitoba, she has award-winning wool and she breeds rare breeds, and her program just comes up with this unique quality wool that artisans use. You can actually know the name of the sheep that you're getting the wool from that goes into your pieces. I mean, there's a connection there. There are a lot more farmers in Manitoba and in Canada. They're building up the industry, and they're all very community-minded people. They're big into sustainability and making sure that they take care of their animals and have quality wool. To be a part of that makes me feel good.
Supporting industries that are sustainable is an opportunity to make our lives better. We all know about having our clothing made out of wool, but to use it in an art form and every other way is absolutely creative. But that's the whole thing about being creative, about how we use natural fibers. They're there forever and they benefit so much environmentally, the land, our homes, beautification. I think it's amazing. The Jubilee is a celebration of Her Majesty's 70 years of reign. Not too many people get to be in service for 70 years. A lot of people would like to live that long. It's very important to celebrate the good things with everything going on in the world. And in this case, celebrating not just Her Majesty and the campaign for wool, but the whole supply chain.
It's such an honor to be asked to make this piece for Her Majesty's Jubilee. What I did with Her Majesty was to research her. Looked at a lot of photos, listened to a lot of her speeches, what she said, what she believes, how she interacts with people, and what I saw was a joyful, kind, hardworking person. And yes, she's Her Majesty and an icon. She's also a woman, a working woman. She's been working for 70 years at this job. She's a mother, she's a grandmother. So all of that, it goes into the piece. And what I try and do is get the essence of the person. And to me, it was that joyful smile and the twinkle in the eye. It portrays how I feel she is as a woman, as the monarch, as after all these years of living and of working at something that she loves and for people that she serves. And isn't it great that I get to serve her in this way?
Another great episode. That's the final one that's been produced. That was produced in 2022, all of those segments. So we really hope that the campaign for wool is going to do more of those segments. They're just beautifully done, and the information that they provide, and from your comments, I know that you're enjoying them too. So that'll be it for that. And I will come up with another special segment. I used the time that I was doing the list of 5 during to show the campaign for wool. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do any more lists of 5, but I will come up with another special segment, and we'll kind of save this space for special segments that we might want to feature in a series. Next, I want to talk specifically about Scandiworks and Kristen Drysdale's designs and the knit-along that we're doing. I talk about it at length with Betsy because Betsy and I are both doing projects for the knit-along, but I just want to let you know that you still have time to join if you'd like. So we have a group on, I have a group, Fleece and Harmony group on Ravelry, and within that community, there are 2 threads going for this knit along. There is the first thread, which is big ideas. So the projects that you're choosing, you can post about that. And there's a second thread, which is the finished objects. So there's lots of projects that have been featured there. This knit along has been going on since the end of October, actually. So people have finished projects. There's some really, really lovely projects. And Kristen has published more than 100 patterns on Ravelry. So there's lots of things to choose from small patterns to sweaters. And Kristen is just a lovely designer, and her take on the Nordicness of the designs is modern, but that is totally respectful of all of the traditions that go with Nordic knitting. So I hope you can join me. There's still time to knit along with Betsy and I. Betsy is doing the Lady Cordelia cardigan, which Kristen had designed to celebrate the PEI Fiber Festival that was supposed to happen on September 23rd. So that's the project that Betsy will show in the segment with Betsy, when Betsy and I in a talk. And I'm doing the Maja sweater, which is from the Nordic Knitting Primer, and it's a bottom-up split hem sweater with a colorwork yoke. So the knit along is continuing until October, the end of October, it started in October. It's continuing until the end of April, so you still have time to join, and we hope to see you there in the threads in Ravelry. I'm gonna hop right over to the shop update, and we have an exciting addition to the shop that just came in today. So I'm showing it for the first time. It has been published for a little while. So I know I'm not the first one to show this book at all, like, you know, that you've probably seen it already, but it is the Laine magazine number 16, issue 16. And I'm going to do a slideshow for this magazine because true to form with Laine, when I looked through this afternoon, there's so many patterns in here that I would knit for myself if I had the time to do it. But there's a lot of really, really beautiful winter projects in this edition of Laine magazine. So I hope you'll stick around for the slideshow. I will try to show all of the patterns that are in here, and we'll join you back here in just a few minutes. So as always, Laine's books and everything that they publish and their magazines are just beautiful. The Laine patterns are famous, but if you haven't had a Laine magazine before, they also have some really great articles, and there's always recipes, and it's kind of about you know, the lifestyle of the Nordic countries. So there's lots of good information in here. And I did have time to flip through this magazine while I was unpacking it today, and it was really serendipitous that they have a beautiful article in here about caring for your knitwear. And as some of you know, Coco Knits, who we carry almost everything that they make, so they make a lot of knitting tools and notions and things, have come out with a new series of products called under sweater care is kind of the heading that it's under. And we carry most of those things that are there. There are some things that aren't available that we don't have yet, but we will be carrying that whole group of products that are for sweater care. And I featured them on the podcast a couple of podcasts ago, about 2 months ago when they first came out. But it was really interesting reading the article in the Laine magazine because they're talking about the sweater care. And I think that most people that are knitting with natural wool and natural fibers know by now that knitting requires to be hand washed if you're knitting with untreated wool. And you block it and you look after it. But there are other products that you can use to care for your sweaters or your garments as well. And Cocoa Knits came up with a series of all the products. And one of the things that they launched was this clothing brush. So I believe that this is a natural bristle brush because Cocoa Knits is always concerned about the environment, and it's a beautifully made wooden brush, and it actually looks like it's made from bamboo, but it might be some other I'm not sure what kind of wood it is. There's a natural cotton strap, and there's this brush. So fabric brushes and clothes brushes have been around for a long time because this is usually what you use to clean your clothing when we weren't washing everything in the washing machine. And I thought it was interesting that they had launched it for knitwear specifically. And I was a little bit unsure about how you would use it. But it's interesting that the article in the Laine magazine talks about a cloth or clothing brush and says that it's one of the most important ways to keep your knits fresh and clean. So I read that part of the article, and the way that you use this is that you actually just brush it over the knitted fabric, and it actually helps to brush out some of the dust and dirt and everything. You can lay your garment down on something that's a little bit firm. They suggested a pillow in the article, and you use it to keep the nap up, but it also can remove light pilling. So if you keep on top of the pills that are on your fabric, all knitted fabric at some point has some pilling because it's just natural that it wears, like especially under the arms and everything. And so it's pretty hard to find a knitted fabric that doesn't pill at all. Some fabrics pill more than other fabrics, and we talk about that in an older episode that we did. So if you want to check that out, you can check out that episode about why yarn pills. But this article in Laine magazine talked about the use of the brush to just brush out dirt on your fabric, and also to smooth out any small pills that are starting to show in your fabric. So the quick version of why yarn pills is that the fibers start to come to the surface. The shorter fibers start to come to the surface as you wear your garment or your item, and then when they mix with dust and dirt, they start to create these little balls that we call pills. And if you brush your sweaters with this cloth brush or fabric brush before the pilling gets to be too heavy, it actually does brush them out. And I tried it because I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Everybody's used to using things like the gleaner, and Cocoa Knits also makes a pill remover, which is the fuzz off comb, which we also have. But even Cocoa Knits did a series of videos about fabric care as well, and they talk about how important the brush is before you even resort to or get to using a comb or something to cut the pills off, because that's basically what they do. You can actually prolong your care of your fabric longer if you're just using the brush every now and then to smooth the fabric. The other thing is, for fabrics that have a lot of loft and nap and fuzz, like mohair fabrics and stuff like that, this is actually really good just to keep the mohair nice and fluffy and separate it. So start with the fabric brush, basically, to care for your knitted fabric. And then if you do have heavy pilling, then you can use this fuzz off comb. But even Cocoa Knits recommends that you brush first before you use the comb. And then it's so cool. Their designs are so cool. It looks like a little razor blade. So there is a blade in here that has teeth, and you hold your fabric flat. Obviously, you wouldn't be doing this while it was on, but you make a smooth place for your fabric, and then you just use this comb like this, flat against the fabric, but the little teeth in the comb can catch the fibers that have pilled, if you have pills. And when you use the little brush first, it actually lifts those pills up off the fabric, so it's easier for the fuzz off comb to get under there, and it's less harsh on the knitted fabric underneath, because you've already lifted the pills up, so you definitely don't want to dig into your fabric with any of these tools that are used to remove pills. So we have these in stock. We just received a new order of them, and we do have the brushes, and I am definitely going to take a second look at the brush, because I didn't realize what an important part the brush was, and can eliminate some of the use that you would have to do about cutting off pills when you're caring for your knitted fabrics. So you have that. We also have the laundry bags that you can put your knitwear in to wash. There is one other piece that is coming, and it's a flip pop-up dryer that you can put garments on, but it's not available at my supplier yet. So the minute that comes in, I will buy that for the shop, and people have been asking about that, if we carry it yet. But as soon as it becomes available, then we will carry it. So check out Cocoa Knits, specifically the sweater care items, and you can check those out. And as always, I should mention as well is that in the show notes, I always create a collection in the online store for everything that we talk about here on the program, and you can use that link just to click, and you'll see all of the items that I show on the podcast. Also in the show notes, you'll notice that I do chapters. So if you want to switch around to different parts of the episode, you're able to do that as well. So the last thing that I want to talk about in the shop, and it has a pattern attached to it. So I mentioned that Simone joined our team. So Simone designs for Sand and Sky Creations, and she designed these beautiful, beautiful mittens called the Iditarod Mittens, and they're just absolutely lovely. They have two of the Norwegian braids. There's these beautiful motifs of the sled dogs, and they have the picket fence shape, which is very traditional in Selbu mittens, and the thumbs feature these beautiful hearts, and you have this beautiful diamond pattern on the mittens as well. So they're just lovely. And I'm just going to try one on so that you can see what it looks like. They're just beautiful. They're knit at a really fine gauge. I forget what the gauge was on the pattern. I think it's I want to say 2.5 millimeter, but I will put it down in the titles. And they have this nice high cuff. So for under your coat, they're just beautiful. And they're designed with our Wild Winds yarn. So I've talked about the Wild Winds yarn that we made in multiple episodes, so I won't go into too much detail there, but she's actually knit them with the natural gray and the black. So those are the colors that you would use for those beautiful mittens. And it only takes one skein of each, and you'll have a little bit left over. So we won't do a kit for them as we normally do kits if there's little bits that you need, because the two skeins are perfect to make the one pair of mittens. And I'm just thrilled about how these turned out. Simone did such a wonderful job. She's also a very beautiful knitter as well, and quick as anything when she knits. I'm so envious. But that's her beautiful design and a great partner for the Wild Winds yarn, if you like that. And we just made a new batch of Wild Winds yarn. So we have all the colors in stock. There is also a natural white color, and which is really ecru, because that's the natural color of sheep's wool. So there's the natural white, and then you have the black and the gray. So you can hop on over to the shop and see that. In the segment with Betsy and I, we talk about other works in progress, and most of you know by now that we actually record the segment. Betsy and I record first, and then I come back and record the solo part of it. We get in a big conversation about Nostipins, and I am going to show pictures of Nostipins in that segment. But if you want to see a close-up picture of what a Nostipin looks like, it's comes from Nordic lands as well, and you wind your yarn on it, and it makes a center pull ball, or a ball that you can pull from the outside, and you can make a cake you can make a ball, or you can make a cake with a Nostipin. And we talk about it a lot in the segment with Betsy, but just to show you what they look like in the shop update, we have those, and we have all the other products that we talk about in that segment: the Yarn Buddy, the Swift, and the double Yarn Buddy, that are all made. All of those wooden tools are made by Scott from Fox Mountain Spindles. And his information will also be in the show notes, in the link. If you click on the link for the collections, his products will be listed there. And without further ado, I think we'll go over to the segment with Betsy, and you'll see what projects we're working on ourselves. I'm not taking projects from other people in that segment. It's actually things that I'm working on myself. And of course, we get off track and have a few laughs with Betsy. So hop on over there, and I'll see you back here in a few minutes. Hi, Betsy.
Hi, Kim.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Good. Good.
Are you dry?
Hardly.
Yeah.
Well, we should probably clarify what we mean by that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So it has been raining here for how many days?
I don't even know.
I don't
I've
know.
lost
and
count.
we get snow, and then that turns to rain.
Yeah.
So it's really something. So I'm sure that I have talked about a whole thing about the weather, so we won't dwell on it.
Right.
But needless to say that it is so humid in the shop that the yarn is hardly even drying.
Yeah.
It won't dry. So we've had to put fans on.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off. You've made jokes in the past about January.
Yes.
When it's like January and June.
Yes.
I'm calling this Julyuary.
Yes.
Which is July and January.
Yeah. So maybe it would be January.
January. There we go. Okay. We've got it. Oh,
anyway, it's
unique.
nuts. It's nuts. We've been here 12 years. It's never been like this. And I never thought I'd be the person wishing for snow, to be honest, but it's just nuts.
It would just bring light and
it's dark.
It's
yeah,
so dark.
It's dark.
So dark.
Anyway, enough of that. Okay, so we've got happy news because you've got finished projects.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
And I'm going to do my whips and rips here.
Perfect.
We'll do all of that together.
Awesome.
And then people have already seen some finished objects that I did before in the segment before.
Right.
So
okay. Can we address the elephant in the room?
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's a weird way to put it.
Well, just hold on. So some of you may have noticed there's a slight height difference between Kim and I. For those of you who met us in person, you'll actually know that this is true.
Yes.
That there is in fact a height difference. So
yes.
Kim, you come in about what?
Well, first of all, I want to say that Betsy's not a giant. Because that's what, I mean, I don't know what people want us to do. Is these chairs are not adjustable. So we're not sawing the legs off the chairs. Or I'm not sitting on a telephone book.
Okay, there we go.
So people are commenting. So we're just going to address it.
Yeah.
So people think I am taller than I actually am.
Which I thought she was taller than she actually was until I sat down beside her.
Yeah, so I'm not. I'm short. So I'm 5'5". So I don't know if that's really short. Really not. It's not short, but I'm shorter than people think.
Yes.
Everybody thinks that I'm taller, and Betsy has a theory about that.
Yeah. So I'm like, I come in just under 5'11", so not too far from 6 feet.
Yeah.
So in general, I'm not really tall, but when I walk into a room, I'm more average height with the gentlemen in the room than I usually am with the ladies. But that's been since I was like 12 years old. I was taller than my 3rd grade teacher.
Yeah.
So that was an adventure.
Okay.
But I carry all of my height in my back, my torso. So when I sit, I'm still quite tall, but I'm struggling to actually have my feet on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where Kim is very much her height's in her legs.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't have any problem with my feet on the floor. So it's all about proportions, body types.
Yeah. So you never get to see us standing or interacting. So that's just a little explanation on
Yeah.
our
So
height
I'm
differential.
not. So the difference is really about 5 inches.
Yes.
But it looks more than that. It even shocked me actually, because when we're working together and stuff, there's not like a big height difference.
No.
So I mean, there is a difference, but not that big. So I look particularly short in this situation, and Betsy looks tall. And then in real life, everybody thinks I'm taller than I am. Most people would guess 5'6" or 5'7", which I'm not even close to that. And then Betsy's you're almost 6 feet tall. So
Which was actually kind of fun. So just history note, I worked in a tuxedo shop for a while. So in a tuxedo shop, you have to measure everyone. They have to give their height because, of course, you're adjusting the tuxedos to their size. Mm-hmm. Most gentlemen like to say they're 6 feet. I am not 6 feet. So when they would come in and I would clearly be looking down to make eye contact, they would say 6 feet and I would write 6 feet. Yeah. So that was always fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. And it was funny because my dad I thought my father was 5'11". Okay. Because I think I heard that from some.
Maybe he was when you were younger.
No. Okay. So I thought, so then, so that's what I thought. Right. That's what I thought. So my mom is, I said 5'5", I'm 5'5.5" to be precise. Okay. So I'm not, I don't know if I said 5'5" or whatever, 5'5.5". My mom is also 5'5.5". Okay. So the big mystery about what 5'11" looks like, it was solved because my mother posted a picture of her graduation from school, and my mom and dad were dating at that time, from when she became a lab tech, not from high school, but from her secondary education. Right. And she just posted it like within a few weeks ago on Facebook, and I was like, OMG. You're actually taller than Dad. There's no, even with high heels, there was no way he cracked 5'9". There's not a chance. Not a chance.
That's hilarious.
So I too just thought that he shrunk with age, but he was never 5'11".
Oh, okay.
And my mother's I was laughing. I said, "Oh my goodness!" I said, "Dad was really not very tall," and she said, "Well." And I said, I always thought he was 5'11". And she said, well, why did you think he was 5'11"? He was never 5'11". I said, well, somebody told me that.
Oh, maybe it was him.
So I heard it from somewhere.
Someday someone measured him when his hair was standing up a bit. A few inches.
So he wasn't bold enough to try to get away with the 6 foot thing.
Right.
But he was actually
5'11". Yeah. Height's funny. It's so funny. And I, for the most part in my life, have actually quite enjoyed my height and have felt it's brought me confidence. I know there's some folks who don't like to be a lot taller. The only day I faltered was on my wedding day. Because my husband is a tiny bit shorter than me, so I went barefoot.
Oh, did you?
Because I didn't want to have any additional height. But looking back now, he even says, you could have wore 6-inch heels and I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, well, that's Ken's like that. Ken's not tall. I'm taller than Ken.
Yeah.
And that was also, I loved high heels when I was working. So I always had really high heels on. I loved it. And he just said, at first when we first started dating, I was like, oh, I'm going to wear flat shoes. Yeah. I hate flat shoes unless I'm working. Like in here, I wear flat shoes, obviously, not high heels. No. But he said, at one point, he said, how come you're not wearing your high heels? Yeah. And he said, I don't care. I really don't care. Yeah. I thought, good on you.
Yes, and that was exactly the conversation we had too.
Yeah,
so, yes, he freed me to be me, which is wonderful.
That's right. We're lucky to have them.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yes.
They're good guys.
We feel blessed with the guys that we have.
And they cook.
Yeah, they both cook. Yeah.
Anyway, we're way off topic now.
Okay.
So we're actually here.
That's not the farm update. That's the fam update.
There we go.
Okay.
So, do we knit?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do knit. And we do crochet a little bit too.
A little bit. We're not into a big, or I'm not into a big crochet project.
I still have a big crochet project.
Good.
But that I actually worked on. But I'm not bringing it because there's not enough progress to actually show the difference from the last time you saw it, which would have been 2 episodes ago.
Okay.
Because when you finished yours, it was 2 episodes
Something
ago.
of that sort.
Yes. So I actually did work on it. I took it in from the shop, and I had it out. And when it's laying out there on the table, ready to go, it's no problem at all just to put on a couple flowers, and that's what's happening.
Awesome.
But I've been really working on my other 2 projects, and I wrote a post about it in the newsletter last week about the blessings of relaxed knitting. Yes. So we'll get to that, but you have a finished object.
I do. So I'll start with the mittens. Yay!
These are the Canada
These
Game
are
mittens.
the Canada Game mittens, winter Canada Game mittens. So still praying winter
6
arrives.
degrees here today, 6 degrees Celsius. Right.
So here they are.
Yeah.
All done.
Nice.
And he's very pleased with them.
Right.
And we made them super custom for him. I had knit the thumb. He tried it on. It was too short, so I pulled back, added 2 rows. So these really, truly are like Matthew's hands mittens.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. And I'll just make a comment. If you're wondering, because I'm not sure, when I do the editing, I'm not sure that the motif is coming out super
I took
clearly.
photos ahead of time this time.
Oh,
So I will work really hard to remember to actually send them to him.
So I'll edit them in if I get them. If not, I would just explain that this is actually the logo for the Canada Games that are here on PEI. And if you look it up, he did a real... Matt
he made the chart.
Yeah, he made the chart. So he did a really good job. And these are made out of Selkirk worsted. They're really, really soft.
They really, really are. They're lovely.
I know, I say this every episode. I can't believe we made that yarn.
Gorgeous. And I did knit it at a slightly tighter gauge than you probably would for a sweater, but he wants them to be somewhat windproof. So with the color work and the tighter gauge.
So what, do you remember the needle gauge that you used on these?
I want to say they are 3-point. They're 3-point.
Oh,
or
3.0. 3.0.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is, I like to knit our, for a sweater, I like to knit our Selkirk worsted at around 3.5 or 3.75.
Okay. Where I have to go like 4.5 because I'm just so
tight.
Oh,
okay. I mean, gauge is all individual anyway.
Which we'll talk about later. Oh boy.
Yeah, and, but this is a really nice fabric at 3.0 millimeter.
Nice.
I'm going to try them on. I hope Matt doesn't mind.
No, he won't mind.
They're a little too big for me.
Yeah, he has quite a wide palm. So I was worried I'd made them too wide, but he said no. He puts his hand in there and he said it fits like a glove.
They feel really nice.
Yeah.
And I'm just feeling in here because you did a really good job.
Oh, good.
Because the floats, when you're doing mittens like this, are really important that they're not too long.
Okay, I tried.
Because your finger will get caught in them, but yours seem to be perfect.
Good.
Yeah.
Which the lice pattern here on the top certainly helps for that. We spaced that purposely. It's only every 3 stitches that it changes. I was a little concerned about some of the floats in here because there are some long ones, but I did try.
I won't turn them inside out.
I did try to tack it down. So
no, they're nice.
And I even made it so. At one point, I realized I'd made 2 left-hand mittens.
Oh,
and he's like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. It'll be fine." I was like, "No, if we're going to do this, we're doing it right." So we ripped it back, and what I realized, it wasn't the thumb gusset. At first, I thought I put the thumb gusset in the wrong spot. It was actually that I started like it's not perfectly straight across. I don't know if I'm going to explain this well, but I had to start this round over further so that it actually like curls around a bit.
Now okay. So it goes slightly in this way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see I have the right hand mitten
there. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Like that. Because when you put it on, I could tell it was
subtle.
backwards.
You won't be able to see it, but you can feel it.
And this looked twisted here when it was
you're
when
very
you put
precise.
it on.
Good job, Betsy.
I got it figured out.
Is this your first pair of mittens?
No, I did the Trondheim mittens.
Okay,
by,
yes.
Who is that by?
Sophia Cammerborn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we carry a kit for it here, actually.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
I
guess
did
if
that.
I was really good at editing, I would put in a picture here. Because we have the mitten
Trondheim.
kits. Yeah. So.
They're more traditional Norwegian shaping, so they go right up
shape.
to the to the point where he did not want the point, he wanted it rounded. So again, these are based off of the Saltwater Ladies out of their mitten book.
Yeah, the original Saltwater Mitten book.
Yeah. I just took a pattern of theirs and essentially like figured, okay, I went, this is a good starting point for stitch count, and used that, and then adjusted it as he tried it on, adding or taking away a stitch or two.
They're really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they're warm because I can feel my hand is heating up as we speak.
Good.
They're lovely.
So those are those.
And I mean, washing and blocking.
Oh,
because the if you go back and look at we've shown these in 2 episodes now because
Sorry,
your
I got tangled in the cord here. I'm just going to adjust that.
That's so yeah. Don't mess with them.
No, I know. Sorry,
we had sound issues in the last one. Anyway, so. You addressed it, so nobody made a comment, but it looked like the cuffs were really tight.
Yeah, no,
but like our yarn always does, it's consistent.
Yeah.
It widens, goes wider, and it goes shorter.
Yeah.
So when you're knitting with Selkirk worsted yarn and the yarn weight is the same, you have to make sure, it's important when you're doing sweaters especially, you have to make sure that on I was going to say normal size, but a size, not a crop size, but a regular size sweater, hip length sweater, you need to knit about 1.5 inches longer than you think you're going to want. Your gauge swatch, if you wash and block it, will tell you that. So, but if you don't do the gauge swatch and watch and block it and measure from an unblocked swatch, you're going to get a nasty surprise.
It'll bounce up.
It bounces up and goes wider.
Yeah.
And it's true with these.
So I wanted to block them.
Yes.
But I had this moment where I'm like, oh, I don't have mitten blockers. And then he's like, what are mitten blockers? So I said, well, those are like shaped like a mitten. I won't explain to you folks what mitten blockers are, you know. And I was like, there's some at the store, but I don't have any. And then I was like, it'll be fine. We'll just pat it out flat and it can dry flat. And he's like, oh, well, do you care if I cut up some of the foam in the basement? And I was like, no. So he comes back.
I can see his little fingers are dry.
He traced his own hands in this, it's like play mat foam. I use it for blocking too. It was similar to a blocking mat.
Yeah.
And traced his hands. So I put them on here and they dried perfectly.
Yeah.
So someday I think I would prefer some very pretty, nice carved, but these served the purpose at that moment.
They look perfect.
Yeah.
And just to correct one little thing before people start writing. We
don't
have mitten blockers.
To sell. Right?
We don't have mitten blockers.
Oh, what are those? Are socks.
Sock blockers.
We
have one pair of small sock blockers here.
My apologies.
But now it's probably a good idea to get them because the sock blockers sell, and we just sold out. I haven't replenished, and
they're just so pretty. I honestly would just want to hang them on my wall.
Yeah, they are. Anyway, great job, Betsy.
Thank you. Should we share the other mitts we have here too while we're at it, or you want to wait on that?
I'll talk about it later.
Sure.
But I do have another pair of mittens that I'm going to show later.
Yeah. Okay, so what's up next?
So
I think that's the only finished thing we have here.
That's right. And do you have a work in progress that you want
to do. So this is my little story with this. So I'm continuing on with my Cordelia.
I'll probably talk about it. Well, maybe I won't talk about it separate. This will be the knit along invitation for people.
Sure.
So we are doing a knit along KAL with Scandiwork patterns. So anything that Kristen Drysdale has published, either in her book, The Northern Knitting Primer, which we carry if you're a late comer, or on Ravelry, and that the KAL, the knit along, is using one of her patterns. It's been going since October. And it finishes on April 30th. So if you hurry, you can still have time to do a sweater. So we each have a project that we're going to show doing what we're doing for the Scandiwork KAL.
So I'm doing the Lady Cordelia, which she designed right out of our Selkirk worsted. Right. And it's an all-over colorwork cardigan, which is lovely. So I completed the first sleeve. I'm a little confused on which is which, but we'll figure that out in a moment. Completed the first sleeve, was super excited, cast on, just to explain that down there. So she has it's like a faux seam that goes down. So I haven't messed up my color work. She actually designed it with like a faux seam down the inside of the arm.
And you use this as your swatch.
I
She asked you to do a swatch in the round. Mm-hmm. We went on ad nauseum about how we hate doing that. So
I used the sleeve and I knit another one and then I did this one. So this is the correct one, I think. Then I knit, yes, this is the correct one. I know this for sure now. So then I knit the next sleeve because I was just like, I'm going to get going here.
So you knit a swatch sleeve and then...
I knit like 2/3 of a swatch sleeve.
And then took it out.
Yeah.
Because the gauge wasn't right.
No, it was in the purple one, the purple and gray.
Oh,
I decided to change my colors.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
Right.
So then I put this one on with the right needles.
Okay.
Yes, the right needles.
You.
And then I got on my way and I got going and I finished the second sleeve and I decided to go back and record my notes pretty in my notebook and on the pattern, and I went, no way. I knit the entire second sleeve in the needles that I had recorded for the swatch that was incorrect.
Oh, okay.
So
the swatch that failed.
Yes. So I had to go up needle sizes to get the correct gauge, which I did for the first sleeve and then promptly went straight back to the wrong ones for the second one. So she talks about how important row gauge is in this pattern to make sure you get the length you want and if you need to do more repeats. And she's not kidding, because that is what actually changed the most for me with my needle size is the row gauge.
Wow.
Look at the difference.
Wow.
In one needle size.
And the same number of rows.
Same, and I'm positive I didn't miss a repeat. It's not like I missed a pattern repeat anywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to miss one in that.
So I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I was I was momentarily devastated until I remembered I like knitting.
Yes.
So it's okay.
Right. It's okay.
It's all good. So
it's a really good lesson.
It is. It's just in understanding your gauge and checking your notes. Just check your notes more carefully.
And again, this is in Selkirk worsted.
Yeah.
So did you wash this and block this?
You know what? I'm just realizing I haven't yet. So I should. Because now I'd already, it would not be hard. And I'm thinking I might have to add more length anyway, because I have longer arms and the lady I'm knitting it for has longer arms. So you're not actually supposed to knit the sleeves first.
Yeah.
So I'm going to knit the body and I'm fully prepared. I may have to pull out this little bit and add another thing.
Repeat of something. Yeah.
Will wash and block.
You need to wash and block it.
I will do that.
And what else was I going to say about this? Something when you held it up. Yeah. Anyway, you need to wash and block it just to make sure. And then, but you actually, you're keeping track of the number of rows you're doing.
Yes.
Because if once you wash and block it, you're not going to be, I was going to say you could compare it with it, but you can't compare. You won't be able to compare.
And it's okay. Her measurements are in inches too. So that's okay too.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. So it's coming along, but I'll just knit a third sleeve.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And the colors are crowing.
Yeah.
And pearl. Right.
Yeah.
So I have to say that I want to make a mention about if you run a really black, like a good black, we do a good black.
It's rich.
Yeah.
I would call it a cool black.
Yeah.
It almost it's not a brown base to it.
Yeah.
It's a cool black. I really like it because I like cool undertones, and it has that. So it is one of my favorite. I know it's black, but it's one of my favorite.
Yeah. It's not always easy to find like a really consistent black.
Yeah.
And we know why. Because it's hard to dye it.
It's not easy.
Yeah. It's not easy to dye it, and we've had to redo batches more than once.
Yeah.
And but it does. We do have a good black. I have to say.
So that's coming along fine. So then, when I had a moment of oh man, I should start this sleeve again. This is Sunday afternoon. We record on Tuesday. I wanted to be prepped and ready with it. I was like, I should at least have the next one started. And I was like, no. I'm just going to pause, and found my friend online is doing it, as well as I went in search. I said I wanted a frog to go on my wallflower.
Right.
So this is he has no lips yet and no legs. So I don't even know if you can maybe see him from that far.
So we've just changed topics completely. Yes.
Yeah.
So we're finished talking about Betsy's Cowl.
Oh, I'm sorry. And we haven't done yours.
That's
I skipped
okay.
yours.
No, go ahead. But just in case in case they put down to look at their knitting and looked up and now don't even understand where they are.
What editing was that?
Yeah. It's like a Doctor Who we're in time warp. Okay, so now we're talking about the wallflower blanket.
Back again.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So for my wallflower blanket, I wanted to add a little character. So this is going to be a frog that I'm going to attach. He might be overstuffed. I'm going to have to unstuff him a bit. I'm going to add him to.
He's really cute.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the colors in your blanket.
They are. I just used leftovers.
And you found a pattern for that?
I did. So it is Dot Pebbles is her Ravelry name.
She does
She's
such nice
gorgeous
things.
stuff.
Yeah, if you like amigurumi, check out Dot Pebbles if you don't know who she is.
Yeah. So that's one of hers. So it gets these cute I-cord legs yet, a little like lips on there to give me some frog lips.
Really
so
cute.
This was I just need to do a little happy knitting. So this is my little happy knitting.
Cute. Very cute.
Okay, your
So now what are you doing about your sweater? Like you're gonna just take out the one that's not the right size?
I'm actually not going to. I'm gonna just leave it for now.
Okay.
And knit the other one, and I will pull it out.
And she said something really funny.
Oh, what did she say?
Because she said she'd give me the sleeve for my one-armed Norwegian. So
we won't even explain it all. Those are for those who that's a joke for you that follow.
Yes, for you that have followed every episode and you watch the Selbu Mitten Wild Winds episode, then you'll get the joke.
It's for Kim's one-armed Norwegian fellow
husband. Which is you have to go back and see the episode. Okay.
So your cowl piece.
Yes, my cowl. So I am doing the Maja sweater. And I'm doing it in purple cone flower and the light contrast. So I didn't want like the most contrast that I could have. These two colors are from our amethyst gradient. And if I wanted to do the highest contrast possible with that gradient, I would have used amethyst brooch and Mayflower.
Yeah.
But instead, and the gradient has 5 gradations of amethyst brooch. So I'm using the second one down from amethyst brooch, which is purple cone flower. That's the dark color. And I am doing the color work with,
Is it Mayflower? No, it's
no,
not Mayflower.
Aster.
Yes,
Aster.
it is Aster.
Yes. Can't even remember my own. So the Maja sweater has a split hem. This is my first bottom-up split hem sweater that I've done. I haven't done, even though that they're all the range. I think that I maybe, it looks like it looks better now because I thought that I maybe made the length difference too short. It's supposed to be 1/2 inch. And while I was knitting it, it seemed like it was not quite 1/2 inch. But now that it's kind of all relaxed, it is looking.
You have some length back
Yeah,
here.
you have some length back there.
Yeah.
So the Maja sweater is meant to be a sweater that somebody could do if they've just started color work. So it's adventurous beginner, I would say, and the instructions are lovely and detailed and no problem. But it's perfectly straight stockinette all the way up to the yoke. But I did my little post last week in the newsletter and said that I was enjoying the boredom of the knitting stockinette and whatever, but apparently I'm not really that happy with that because I added color work.
Oh, you did? That's not in the that's not in the pattern.
So if you're looking at your Maja pattern saying that's not where I missed something on the Maja pattern, I just took one of the little motifs that she does in the yoke and I kind of modified it a little bit and just did this little kind of
cute.
It's a little X and then a diamond, X and a diamond, but it'll show up better once it's blocked. And I just put that on the bottom.
Yeah.
So I will do this sweater not quite a tunic length. I'll do it like I usually tend to do it lower on my hips, and that is because I have no behind whatsoever. So I either have to cover the whole thing or I have to do something a little bit shorter.
Leave it fully exposed?
Yeah. So, and what happens when it's fully exposed in my jeans is actually like this little triangle with no buns whatsoever. So I usually cover it.
They are learning way too much about us tonight.
So that's now you get the whole picture. And so this will come down, like I make it come down like just below my hips.
Okay.
And because I don't really have I have no hips either. Like I'm pretty straight like from the waist down. So I don't mind having something
right, because some would say to not draw attention to that area
That's right.
if you don't want attention drawn. But
Right.
you're all cool with that.
Yes.
So,
So I actually don't necessarily want to draw the attention that I have a completely flat behind and no hips. But what will happen is it will make it look a little bit more proportioned because it's like a vertical or a horizontal stripe. So
Right.
it'll make it appear like there's a little bit more shape. That's what I'm thinking.
And you love horizontal stripes.
I know.
Yeah.
So that's
we
it. So
go.
if you're looking at your Maja and thinking, well, I didn't have that part, I just put it in. So that's the difference. And I'm really was serious in my newsletter about the fact that straight stockinette for inches at the beginning of a project, I think that Kristen Drysdale's a pretty smart cookie.
There's just something that really makes you feel like you got started.
Yes. And when you, by the time you actually really are bored, you're starting the yoke, which will be the fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not that this is not fun. This is exactly what I needed at this
now.
time of year right now.
Can I comment on how cute this cake is?
Yeah, that's my
is
nostopin spinning.
A nostopin.
Yeah.
It's so cute.
Yes,
I like that.
That's the beauty. And in this one,
Oops.
okay. Okay.
Well,
so
now she's
I'm
gone.
gonna get
Okay,
it
you
because
go
I
grab
was
it.
gonna show you something about this. And somebody actually watched my nostopin tutorial. If you go back and there's a, oh God, now I have to drop this. Okay, there's on my, if you go into our YouTube channel, there's a tutorial playlist. And I did I think I talked about this not that long ago.
I don't
No?
remember. Anyway,
Okay.
it's okay.
Anyway, I did a tutorial on how to use a nostopin.
Okay.
I love using a nostopin. It's very soothing and therapeutic, and it's a slow way to ball yarn, but it is really, I like it.
Can I interrupt with a question?
Yes.
When you do it, do you still put it on, is that the Swift?
Yes, and
Okay.
I sell Swifts.
Right.
Do I have one in my house? No.
Okay.
So I just put it on my legs.
So you can do it just on your knees.
Yes,
Okay.
I don't need anybody to hold it for me. I
Nice.
just put it on my legs, the skein or the
Yep.
hank on my legs, and I just wind the nostopin.
Okay. All right.
Go check. I'll put a card if you direct you to the nostopin tutorial if you want, but you can easily find it. And somebody just looked at it not that long ago and made a comment about it and said that it was a good clear one. So I'm happy that that's the case. But you can do a round ball or you can do a cake on the nostopin.
I like the cake.
So this is it's almost used up now, but this round ball almost looks like a coconut when the full thing is done. And then but you can do a cake as well.
And clearly you work from the outside of yours. Some people I think pull their cakes from the inside.
I always
No,
work from
okay.
the outside. And the thing that I love about the nostopin as opposed to like a regular cake winder is that it stays intact all the way down to the end. So even though this is a center pull ball, if you want, like the end is in there, I always just tuck the end inside because I know I'm not going to go from the outside. But this will go down to the size of a marble and still be intact.
Okay, now this is going to sound like I'm totally just trying to sell here, but I'm really not. I'm actually asking questions because I know we have these bits and pieces in the shop, but I'm a bit of a minimalist tool person.
Right.
So I haven't actually operated them. So yarn buddies, right?
Yeah.
So would you then just like
Yes.
the yarn buddy goes in there?
Yes. So
Okay.
Scott's nostopin, so Scott from Fox Mountain Spindles, I've squeezed this and whatever. So when you wind your ball on the nostopin, it makes a hole the size of the spindle on the yarn buddy. I'll be putting pictures, obviously, of all of this in case somebody's not familiar. So you can just put this on the yarn buddy, and the yarn buddy it's a yarn holder.
Yeah.
It feeds your yarn. It's on a like a Lazy Susan type thing.
I think it looks pretty cool. I've yet to try
They're
it,
beautiful.
but I think they look really
and now
cool.
he's just has a double one. He's made a double one that we just brought in stock
so
too.
you could have your color
Yes.
work on as well.
Yes.
Oh,
And somebody asked the question, will the double yarn buddy keep your yarn from twisting? And I think that the answer to that would be no, because you twist your yarn when you keep going around. Like if you're just working in the yarn, if you're just working in the round, I think it would be okay. But if you're doing color work and you're changing your yarns around, you're actually changing the yarn around.
twisting
It's got
it
nothing
as
to
you
do with
go.
the yarn buddy.
Yeah.
So you'll have to do exactly what I do, is be conscious of how you're turning your especially in flat work,
Right.
when you're turning. I turn one way one time and one way a different way the next time, so my yarn doesn't get
Because
tangled.
I even just used 2 little knitting bags that I set one ball in one and one in the other. And it's not about the position on the floor. It's about, you're twisting and turning.
Yes, you're twisting it up here at the work.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's, I wasn't planning on trying to sell Nosta pins today, but it's really interesting because it's a small thing. And if you're like us, like just, it matters when you don't end up with a big ball of yarn barf
Well, and
halfway
what I
through the
like
ball.
is the whole, like, you could go ahead and invest in the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
And buy the Swift, the Nosta pin, the Buddy.
Yeah.
Or you can start with the Nosta pin, try
Yeah.
that out, see if you like that. And then if you want to add the pieces, you can. But it's still fully functional on its own. It's not like they all have to go
the
together.
Nosta pin is completely independent of
the
it's
buddy.
just a way to wind yarn.
So that's great.
And but it's not fast. So if you're in a big rush and you think you're going to wind your ball in 10 minutes, that's not going to happen because you actually are still winding it by hand on the Nosta pin. But what I like about it is, first of all, I just happen to like doing that. I find it relaxed. It's meditative and relaxing. And the other thing is, I really like the balls that come off
like
of
your
it.
finished result.
I like the finished result because there's something very satisfying
about
that. And you can make a round ball, which is also center pull if you want, or a cake.
Nice.
And it's just a matter of how you position the yarn as you're winding it around.
Does your tutorial show both?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while since I looked at the tutorial myself.
And
But
clearly I have not watched it at all.
I was absolutely mortified. This is why I thought we talked about it before, is that somebody actually, Arne and Carlos, just by coincidence, did a tutorial as kind of a joke. They were like totally tongue-in-cheek about a Nosta pin, and it was a disaster. And somebody actually, this is before they came here, and I kind of knew them. They wrote to them and said, you should really watch the Fleece and Harmony Nosta pin video.
And Kim's like, I'm just going to crawl under a rock right now.
I was mortified. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay.
But slightly chuffed at the same time.
Yeah, just a little bit. I was like, and I actually got to say something to them. And I said, when they were here, I said, have you guys watched my tutorial in Nosta pin? And they started laughing. They said, yeah, we remember the comment.
Oh, yeah.
I said, oh, okay.
You did not put them up to it.
No, it was really funny. So they said, what they said though was, like, obviously we knew we weren't doing it right.
Yeah.
So we didn't need people
to tell them
that we weren't doing it right. We knew it was a little bit tongue in cheek.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's all. That was Maja.
Yeah.
And now I have my 2 sleeves of my Cowl Cardigan.
Oh, it must be sleeves because this shrunk a lot from the last time.
Yes. So I showed all 3 pieces. So I've got the front and the back. The 2 sides to the front. It's a cardigan, left and right, and the back, all done. These are the sleeves. And once again, I'm doing them 2 at a time. Garter stitch. So you're knitting in the flat, which could mean knit and purl, but not when it's garter stitch. It's just straight knit all the way to the sleeve shaping. I'm just loving it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is fun. Sometimes when I don't enjoy just sitting there watching TV. To me, that feels like I'm not doing anything.
Right.
So that is great when you can feel like you're accomplishing something while also just truly
Watching
resting
TV.
halfway.
Yeah, exactly. It's really like completely mindless. The only thing that you have to do is that there's a little bit more detail in this, but roughly it's increase the stitch on either side of the sleeve every 8th row.
Okay.
Garter stitch, counting rows, is every
Easy.
bump is a two
Yeah.
rows. So it's like two. What I did was I made a list of all the rows where I had to increase by 8, like so 31, 39, whatever. And I have that listed on the margins of my pattern. And I just check them off.
As you go.
As I go, yeah.
And you have your own little system here to make sure that you remember to change.
Yes,
the
I
ball?
keep them together because if you put your knitting down in the middle when you're doing 2 at a time and you pick it up, it's really hard to figure out which direction you were going in.
I feel like garter stitch, sleeves, you shouldn't really be stopping too often in the middle. Because
No.
you're talking, I need 68 or 2
Yeah.
more minutes to finish that.
Yeah,
So just,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But when I do 2 at a time now, anytime, I pin them together in the middle. And I didn't do it because the last time we were here, I think I was only like somewhere around
Okay.
here or something like that. But I also use this as my little progress keeper. Like I move it up, and then it's satisfying to see that you actually had to move the pin. So
Again, squishy, squishy.
yeah, very squishy.
Yeah.
yeah.
What is
So-
this again? This is
This is the Cowl Cardigan by Rowan in mode collection 1. So that's where the book has the pattern, and they did it in a gray color.
Oh.
Which when I first saw it, we have the sample actually
that's
that they
right.
used in the photography in the store because Rowan gifted it to us, so that was lovely. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
but it's not really. It's not like
not
it
you.
doesn't jump off the
No.
page when you look at it. And then when I got it, the sample, I was like, well, this is actually a really nice design. And but I'm not making it in gray. So I'm using cherry red, and it's knit in Kid Classic.
Kid Classic.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's it. And there's quite a lot of viewers have knit one.
Okay,
Too.
nice.
So there's some beautiful, beautiful colors in Kid Classic. They came out with new colors this fall.
Right.
And there's some really rich like blues, and there's a beautiful navy and all kinds of really nice colors. So if you want to, I'll still be knitting it if you join. So it's just the sleeves that are going a lot faster. The body of the Cowl cardigan is made from double seed stitch, so it's knit and purl the whole way, which is a little bit daunting for some people. It was a bit daunting for me because knit and purl the whole way is a lot, and it's a like just over the knee, like not
Right.
over the knee, but almost to the knee length cardigan. It's a lot of knitting, and then so this will be finished quicker than the front and the back were.
Right.
But then you have the cowl to knit, but it's also in garter stitch.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you
But
in the
I
round.
I think it's in the round.
So what does that mean? How do you do garter in the round?
You have to knit and purl,
Oh.
but
Okay.
by the row.
Oh
So-
wow. Okay.
I want to mention one more thing about my, because I have 2 balls here for the Maja, is I'm alternating skeins. So if people think that can be a pain in the behind, but I don't necessarily like fiddling around with 2 balls of yarn either, but I'm smart about when I do it and when I don't. So I knew that I had more than enough yarn in one ball to get up here past the color work. So I decided not to alternate down here. I don't alternate in the color work because you're not going to get obvious pooling anyway. And I started alternating when I got up here because now it's straight stocking knit all the way.
Yeah.
I don't alternate full balls. I usually alternate when I have about a third or a quarter of the ball left.
Interesting.
And then I use that up. Then I work with the one ball for a third of a ball or whatever. And then I start alternating again when
this
I'm
is
getting
smart.
close.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
And it's not hard to alternate. It's
No.
not hard, but I just prefer just working with one
And
ball.
I think it's worth it in the end. Then you don't
Oh,
even have to
yes.
worry about pooling or
Yes.
like chunks of one or the other.
Yeah, it's
and
absolutely worth
with
it.
mine that's all over color work, I am not.
Yes.
I'm not doing any alternating
Yes,
with that.
because you're breaking up. You don't have,
Yeah.
it's when you have big swatches of one color of fabric, then because we hand dye in like, or kettle dye, like some
Yeah.
people call it,
Okay.
then you're for sure, there's no way we can help it. You're going to get variegation
Yeah.
in the even the solid colors are tonal.
Right.
So.
Which adds beauty to it.
Yes,
as
we
long
love
as
it.
you work with it well.
Yeah. So we purposely did do that
Yeah.
because when we started the mill, we actually dyed the wool and then spun it, and we hated it.
It's just solid.
It's just solid.
Yeah.
It looked, and the better we got at spinning, the more commercial it looked.
Right.
Like honestly,
Right.
and that wasn't what we wanted to do.
Not what you were looking for.
So there's a place for that, obviously.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah,
you
of
you
course.
know, that's not that it's not that we don't like. Obviously, we carry a commercial yarn.
Yes.
It's not that we don't like commercial yarn or
Right.
colors that are solid and not tonal. It's just that that's not what we want it to have as our point of differentiation. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think, is that it?
Yeah, that's all I got.
That's all you got?
Yeah.
I see something else. Oh, that's your other swatch.
No, this was my first swatch.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That I decided the contrast was just a little too low, and it's beautiful, but it's not. It doesn't scream the person I'm gifting it to. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So then that's it.
Okay.
All
so-
right. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. It's always strange saying goodbye. 'Cause
Yeah,
we'll
we
see
say-
you
we say
tomorrow.
goodbye.
Kim's going to be back in just a moment.
Yeah.
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 And thanks for joining us.
Yes. Thanks for
Us.
joining us. Yeah.
And yeah.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
So that went in every direction for sure. So I hope you had some fun with us in that segment. And like I said, we're not going to tell the joke about the one-armed Norwegian husband. So you'll have to, people that are following us will know what it is, and you'll have to check out that episode if you want to hear the whole story about how why that's funny to us. And the final thing that I want to talk about in the shop update is not something that I can show you right now, but as many of you know, that we have a newsletter. And when you subscribe to the newsletter, I send out a newsletter at 2:30 Atlantic Standard Time every week, and in that letter I have a little blog that I write, and we also do new things that are in the shop. And this time I'm giving people fair warning because we have made a batch of yarn that always sells out quickly, and the people that are subscribed to the newsletter will have the first chance to purchase it. And it will probably not have any left by the time we get to the next podcast. So I'm giving you fair warning that if you think that you want this yarn, then you should subscribe to the newsletter, and the link will be in the newsletter when the yarn is available next week. So the yarn is Iona Bunny, and for people that don't know, Iona is a place that's close by. It's like just borders on the farm, and we have bunnies. So I thought myself hilarious by calling the yarn Iona Bunny. And we only have 9 bunnies, so it takes a long time for me to comb the hair and to get enough of their wool to make a batch of yarn. But I've been combing for quite a while. We haven't had any Iona Bunny for quite a while, and but we have enough to do a really good full batch of it. So we will be doing a segment in the newsletter next week, and the Iona Bunny will go on sale at 2:30 Atlantic Standard Time on January 27th. So if you are interested in that and you do not sign up to the newsletter, then you should sign up, and you can sign up to the newsletter from our website. If you're already signed up for the newsletter and you don't read them right away, then if you're interested in Iona Bunny, you might want to read the newsletter right away so that you can order. And we've sort of decided what colors that we're going to do, but we haven't finalized it, so I'm not even going to talk about the colors, but I'll have a visual in the newsletter that you'll be able to see. So you can check that out, but you have to sign up to the newsletter. And if there's any left after next week, then I will show it on the podcast in episode 114. And I think that's it. So it's been a really couple busy weeks here in the shop, and we're just going to pray for at least one day of sunshine. And I hope you are able to find joy in your crafting, whatever it is you're doing, crochet or spinning or knitting or whatever it is that you do to use your hands and keep your mind and heart full. And have a wonderful 2 weeks and enjoy the harmony part. This time Ken has caught some fresh snow falling It happened about a week and a half ago. And as always, I'll put some relaxing and beautiful music behind that video. And I hope that you find peace while you're watching the harmony part. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye.